So this is part 2 of my doll hair rerouting tutorial. We're starting off with our doll head and she's already been prepped. So please refer to part 1 if you don't know how to get to this stage. So yeah, we've removed all of her hair and repainted her scalp so it matches the hair that I am going to be putting in her head today. So all you're going to need is obviously your doll head. So we've got Katrine here. You're going to need your doll hair. This is from dollyhair.com. The colour is very appropriately called Pussycat. It's a really gorgeous sort of pink colour. This was a hank that I got for Barbie, but decided to use it on Katrine. It was an extra long hank that I cut in half because I want her to have a really full-bodied, sort of almost manga type appearance. So yeah, that's the hair. And you're going to need what is called a hair rerouting tool. This is mine that I made myself. You can buy them online. You can get them through dollyhair.com. I've just had this one for a long time and couldn't buy them when I made it. So all it is a wooden handle that I got from my local art shop. It was like a clay reworking tool and it just used to have a little point in the end here. And all I've done is taken the point out with some pliers and replaced it with a needle. Now, if you have a look in the tool, you can see at the top here that the eye of the needle is sticking out of the tool. And all I've done is cut the eye of the needle with a little pair of wire clippers to make 2 prongs, with one of the prongs a little bit longer than the other. So all that is just a normal like sewing needle. This one is actually a ribbon needle for ribbon embroidery, and you can see on the end there that the eye is really long, and that's why I use these needles. So all I've done is taken a pair of wire cutters and just snipped the end of the needle like that, like on an angle. So once you've snipped that, off, I've just stuck the needle, the pointy end into the tool, and that's my hair rerouting tool, and it works perfectly. So to begin, you're going to take just a little bit of hair out of your hank. It can get very messy, so you don't want to just leave your hair open to fall everywhere. So all I'm going to do is take a little tiny piece, and honestly, you do not need much at all. When you're taking all of her hair off, maybe have a look and see how big the plugs are, but you really don't need a lot of hair, especially because you're going to be doubling it up like that. So it's going to be twice as thick anyway. So all you're going to do is take your little bit of hair here. Okay, I'm just going to wrap it around my finger once. And then make sure that my ends down here are nice and even. So once I've got that nice and even, I'm going to just pick up the hair from around my finger and make sure you get all of the hair in. It's a little bit tricky doing it on this angle, so there we go. I've got my hair in. I'm just going to slip it off my finger. And there you go. It's just hooked on to one of the prongs. So now all I need to do is take my doll's head. I'm going to start at the back. You can start anywhere you want. Some people like to start at the top, on the part. If you're a bit worried that you don't have enough hair, I would definitely suggest starting on the top, just so that you get the best coverage. But I'm going to start at the back, or on the side at the back. I'm going to take my tool and line it up with one of her little holes here, and just push it firmly into her head, and then just pull it out, and there you go. It really is as easy as that. I'll do another little piece for you. The only thing that I would say here is to be really careful that you don't push it too hard and get the tool and puncture the other side of her scalp, which can happen, especially if it's hard to push in. So if you're a little bit worried about that, all I would suggest to do is to get some fabric scraps or some stuffing and fill up her head with the stuffing or scraps, and then you're just going to be putting the tool straight into that, and you won't have the risk of stabbing her through the head. So all I'm going to do, I've got my little bit of hair here. I'm probably using a little bit more than I usually would, just so it shows up on the camera so that you can see it, but you really don't need very much hair at all. So you're going to take your hair, put it over your finger, wrap it around once, and make sure your ends are fairly even. Then I'm going to take my hair rerouting tool, hook the hair onto it, take my doll, and right next to the one that I've already done, line it up with the hole, press in firmly, and pull it out. And there we go. You can see she's now got two little bits of hair coming out there. The one thing that I would stress here is that it is quite easy to put a split in the scalp, especially around the edges here where the holes are really, really close together. So when you are putting your tool, lining your tool up with the hole, you want to make sure that both prongs are going to go into that one hole and not one prong in one hole and one in another, because that is going to split your doll's head. So one last time, I've got the hair of my finger, wrapped it around, made the ends even, hook it carefully onto my tool, pull, line up one of the little holes, and push. And that's it. Okay, so I have Katrine here, and I have rerouted pretty much all of her hair. As you can see, it's quite full around the back, and I've just got to do really her part now. And I just wanted to show you here, if you have a look at her part, her factory hair came straight from the front over, so she didn't really have a proper part. There are two ways that you can do the part. You can just have one line of hair plugs that are a little bit thicker than the rest of the plugs, and you will split each of them in half. One goes one way, half goes one way, half goes the other, straight down the middle. Or you can have two lines of hair plugs and crisscross them, so having one go one way, one go the other way, all the way down her scalp. But if you are just beginning, I definitely recommend just having the one line of plugs, and that's what I'm going to show you today. because she didn't have a factory part, there are a few little spots like here, if you can see, that is no plug in that spot. So I'm going to go ahead and take my pointy little tool here and find those little spots and just make a new hole in her head like that. And the other little bit I left was just around her ear here, and around the ears and around the edge of her head there are lines, sort of like guidelines, and the plug holes don't cover those guidelines there, so I'm going to go ahead and make a few more holes just around the ear here, and then I'm going to fill them in. So just give me a second. Okay, so I've gone ahead and made all the extra holes that I needed, and I'll just show you how I'm going to do the part. Just a normal plug like this, except you're going to make the plugs for the part quite a bit thicker. I'm not sure if you can really tell from the camera there, but because each of these plugs is going to be split in half. So I'll put that one in there and just show you what I mean. I'm going to take that plug that I just inserted, and all I'm going to do is split it down the middle and put half on one side and half on the other. And that's the first plug for her part in there. I'll do another one just to show you again, but it's really easy doing the part like this with just one line of plugs and splitting each of the plugs in half. So all you really need to, the main thing you need to remember here is to make sure your plugs are twice as thick, because you are splitting them in half. So I'll just do one more to show you here. Plug in. I'm going to split it in half. So half on one side and half on the other. And you might need to pull it a few times as you're working your way down to make sure, that each part is staying on its own side. So I'm just going to work my way down, doing the part like that and filling in these few extra plugs that I've left to make it easy to see. I'll show you in just 1 second. So I'm down to my very last couple of hair plugs, and I'll just show you here. So I've put all the plugs down her scalp here, and each one of them I've just split in half like you saw. And this is the very last one I think that I'm going to do. So now Katrine is completely rerouted. You can see I finished putting her hair in, and the very last step that we need to do is putting some glue inside of her head. I'm using some wash and wear glue because I want something that's not too runny so it doesn't run through the holes in her scalp, and also something that I can get wet so that I can style her hair later on. So I'm just going to take my paintbrush, put my paintbrush in there and mush all of the glue around to get on every inch inside of her head there, and that's it, ready to be painted and styled.